Hey guys, it's Krystal Lee Moore Lucier here, also known as your Home Sweet Home 519 Realtor, Krystal Lee Moore. This is Realtor Life, a fun and entertaining look at life in the trenches as a real estate professional in Ontario. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, we just recently talked about networking for entrepreneurs and realtors and why it is everything. And we're going to build on that today because I was fortunate enough to give a talk last night for the Human Resources Business Group here in London as they celebrated Human Resources Day. And it was a really big deal because I was able to kind of share some of the things that brought me into my networking kind of I would say expertise at this time because I love it. Um, but it was really nice to look at a different angle. And so for anyone who's listening who really you're not quite sure where to start, or you're really looking about how to foster kind of more relationships within your circle, within your company, this is a great place to start. So the first thing I'm going to say is I used to be terrified of networking. So if we go way back, and I mean way back, I didn't really know what to do. If I walked into a room of strangers, hands were sweating, just kind of like, what do you even say? And here I am, though, kind of being asked to give talks about connections. So it's kind of cool the way the world works. This is about a 20-minute presentation, 20-minute podcast, and I'm going to try and share everything I shared last night. So if I miss anything, or if you think that there are some unanswered questions, please reach out. If you do know anyone that would like to be a guest on our podcast, I'm very excited to have them. We have some amazing guests lined up for the next few episodes, and I'm super pumped. So let's just get into it. Okay. So, if we go back in the day, so this is way back when I first became kind of a adult in the world, out of university, I had the opportunity to work at two medium-sized law firms. So I went to Carleton University and I took a BA honors in law, and I loved it. I loved law. The only thing is I had no money. So when I graduated, I decided to work at a law firm because I thought, you know what better way to get excited about this career than to work kind of side by side with lawyers. And I found it very intimidating. So it was very much like all these like actual like legit adults like ridiculously educated, just so worldly. And so there I was, Crystal, just lots of like theoretical knowledge and armed with my Shoppers Drug Mart experience. That's really all I had. And so kind of just doing my best. I didn't know that I had kind of found the workplace culture jackpot in that first law firm that I worked for. So I worked for Lang Mitchner. It turned into, I believe it's Macmillan now, but way back it was Lang Mitchner. And I remember kind of doing my work in my cubicle, just sort of, I was working for the business manager, sending out kind of um, collections letters, doing data entry, all that fun. And one of the partners kind of stuck his head over my cubicle and he was like, volleyball tonight. We need you on our team. And what struck me, he didn't say, would you like to play volleyball? He didn't say, do you play volleyball? He didn't even say, we'd like it if you could join the team. He said, we need you on our team. And that made a huge difference. Huge. And so when I look back, really, like it was a really big moment of me feeling like I was part of something. So if you want to see connection in action, we had all these like volleyball players, but they were lawyers and assistants, people that were normally wearing suits and business attire, and now here they all are, shorts and t-shirts, kind of face planting into the sand, trying to do anything they can to get a point, cheering and hollering. And it was really cool because it was even as a young professional, it was like, okay, people are people. Like, regardless of what we do day to day, we are all people. And it really, really made an impact on me. And the other thing that was really cool at this firm, we had something called FDAW. So FDAW was Friday drinks after work. And I think at like 4 o'clock, 4:30, one of the partners would send out an email and he'd say, okay, guys, Friday drinks after work, FDAW, we'll meet you all downstairs. And at the time, High's Steakhouse was below. So there was a fancy steakhouse side, then there was like the bar and lounge. And we would gather, and sometimes there would be five of us, sometimes there would be 20 of us, and it was just so much fun. Well, really, the only rule is you couldn't talk about work. But I made such great connections, and it was just like if you want fond memories and really like creating connections beyond just work, that was everything. And it wasn't the kind of cool part when I was talking to the HR people last night, like it wasn't an HR initiative. It wasn't a committee on workplace culture that created this. It was one or two lawyers that decided, and one or two people that decided, let's try this. And then it was kind of a culture of, yeah, let's do it. So everyone kind of had to buy in, but it was just someone saying, I think this would be fun. And I remember thinking, like, I was so envious when my parents would tell me about kind of what work used to be like, right? So there'd be volleyball, maybe not volleyball, but softball and bowling, and there was just company picnics. Like there was a lot more let's all hang out together than there is now. And I think that's really important because it's really just it's about relationships. And the older I get, the more we get past this pandemic world, the what we realize is relationships are everything. The right relationships. Like we have talked about, like if you have people in your world that are really negative or dragging you down or talking about your whatever, ditch them. Good relationships are everything. And again, the magic wasn't the activities. It wasn't that like I'm not saying everyone has to go out and create a volleyball game and y'all have to start drinking on Fridays. It could be that your group doesn't drink. It could be that it's virtual. It could be that you want to do something else. It wasn't the activity. It was that we were just all doing something. Um, and there wasn't a lot of like it didn't turn into something political where we all had to vote on it. It was like, this is what we're doing. You're welcome to join, and we need you. So it was kind of cool. So then this great situation. I ended up working for two law firms in Ottawa, and I loved it. I think a total of like 7 years of working in the legal field. Um, and then something kind of shifted. And I think I've told this story before, but my realtor um, was like, you should be a realtor. And I didn't have the greatest view on the profession at the time. So I was like, like I'm okay. But he planted a seed. And so I will be forever grateful because then I looked up, what do you need to be a realtor? Like what is that? What do you need to do? What do you have to do to be good at it? And it turns out I was naturally good at all the things it said you needed. So I thought, let's give it a try. So I gave it a try part-time while I worked at the law firm. And then kind of life blew up, and I ended up making a move to Guelph, Ontario, a little town about 5 or 6 hours west where I knew no one. Um, it was kind of it was kind of ridiculous when I look back, but I just went for it. I was like, let's go. And I knew no people. I had no connections. I was a new realtor, so basically didn't know what I was doing. Um, and I was really just trying to figure it out. So eh, everyone has like in their life, they have that moment where you're like, okay, this is before, this is after, here's the line. For me, that was Guelph. My whole life, I had thought it would be really cool to live closer to Toronto. My dad lives in Toronto, and I had never just taken the leap, so I finally did. I finally did, and it was terrifying. And I remember just like feeling so alone and so lonely. I had for sure 100% taken my network for granted when I was in Ottawa because coming into a new city, I guess I just thought I would like get along with everyone right away. But new cities, so for anyone, if you've ever followed my story, I have started my business over, my life over 3 times. So Ottawa was my very first start of the career, then Guelph, and then well, I won't give it away, but if you know if you know my story, you already know what happens. But anyways, um, it's just I just thought it would be easier. And so I just remember a lot of like really, really lonely days. And I mean, to top that off, not only did I change everything, I changed obviously my house, I changed my hair. I went from red hair to blonde hair. I was all of a sudden like I had been going through a lot of stress, so I dropped like 20 pounds. So I went from being like me to this like stranger who was like a skinny blonde stranger. It was really, it was a, it was a vibe, that's for sure. But I remember calling a colleague in Ottawa about 3 weeks in, and I was like, I think I have made a terrible mistake. Like terrible. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do. No one knows me here. And I remember he was like, it was my friend Jamie Blasky in Ottawa, and he said, Chris, what are you talking about? Why would anyone know you there? You're not from there. Nobody knows you there. You're new. You have to go out and get to know them. And then you have to show them who you are. It was like the most obvious, perfect advice ever. And I will be forever grateful because, yeah, why would they know me? What am I talking about? So, thanks, Jamie. Um, so then we got to this rebuilding process. So I started going to like every networking thing I could think of. And I do have a talk about this. If you want to see skinny blonde me, you can go to YouTube. Way back when, I actually think I have a presentation on networking from like 2013 or 2014. Um, but the thing is, it wasn't glamorous. It was not like a lightning strike moment. It was day after day, showing up, showing up, showing up when I didn't want to. Originally, networking was exhausting for me. It was just like almost trying to prove myself every time. And as soon as I realized that that's not what it was about, everything got better. So I just started getting to know people, asking questions. The book Think and Grow Rich is great. Not what I meant. The book How to Win Friends and Influence People really just tells you how to get to know people, use their names, hear them, listen to them, pay attention, all these things. And so it was kind of like just going time and time again. Fun fact, in a new city, it's going to take you like 6 months, and probably in a new like workplace too, 6 months to break through the shield, right? People will be polite, people will be nice, but until they know that you're like one of us, like you're not getting in. There's no fast forward. You just have to keep showing up. And so when I first was meeting people, I would like sneak off to the bathroom and like make notes. And because there's so many people, it was so overwhelming. But as I got to know people, I could ask them about things that they told me about the time before, right? And then by asking them, it would like lock into my memory, which was fantastic. Now, like 15 years later, I actually have a CRM. Most of us have a CRM, but like I had no budget. When I say like I hastily moved to another city, I just went for it. I had no savings. I just was like, let's go. Um, when we look back at our younger selves, you're just like, really? Was that the best decision? I'm happy with the result today, so we'll just leave it at that. Um, but that's the thing. Month after month, coffee after coffee, connection after connection. I just made these great, great connections. Like to this day, I have amazing friends, amazing connections from those early days. Um, Okay, so let's just skip forward. So then we go to the post-pandemic. So as we've all been through the pandemic, if you're listening to this and like you started your career in 2024, this may help you. You can probably skip ahead for the next 3 minutes. But oh my goodness, I think we all have Zoom PTSD. And like I record these on Zoom, but oh my goodness. I was lucky enough to go with one of my best friend to see kind of an after it was the Golden Girls, but like revisited. And they were talking about Zoom, and we were all dying because like it was just so relatable. So like even though it sucked, as a group, we've all been through this collective trauma. And we were talking about the fact that like those first like happy hours when everyone was just like kind of sitting in their house thinking like, well, I guess I'm not drinking alone if all my friends are on my screen. Um, my husband and I gave up alcohol during COVID. We figured we'd give it a whirl. Um, but I remember being like somewhat number one, someone's always on mute. Even today, right? Even today, someone's always on mute. They always start talking. They don't look, or they don't know if their screen is being shared, or they are sharing, but they're not sharing sound. Like it's a whole, and it's stuff that like if you tried to explain this to someone from like, I don't know, 2018, they'd be like, what are you even saying? But now we all know. Um, so it's so crazy, right? And you're just like, can everyone hear me? Am I on mute? Or like someone walks by, or the cat goes over, or your baby's crying. Like it's a whole vibe. And so what's happened is like we all share this, except that we're missing out on some really key things. So if we have remote workers, we're not bumping into colleagues in the kitchen anymore. We're not passing them in the hallway. We're not stopping by the water cooler. It really is like your connection with your colleagues has to be intentional. Your connection with anyone has to be intentional. So that's why like we have so many like networking groups and we have events. We have to get body to body, right? So I did hear something like in order to really feel another person, like we're not an island. You have to feel the energy of another person. And that energy can only be felt within 6 feet. You have to be within 6 feet of someone. You can't feel it on a computer. And so while technology has brought us this amazing situation where, yeah, it's fantastic, cool. Like we don't have to leave, but then we don't have to leave, right? So it really is a two-edged sword. Um, so when I joined my real estate brokerage in London, yes, so I did it again in 2019. I had vowed to never ever leave a city or move to a new city, especially for a hasty relationship plan ever again. But then I met the man that would become my husband. And we held out. I was under the impression that we could be a modern couple and just live in two different cities and still be together. But we got engaged, and he has two wonderful children who have become two of my wonderful children. And it's amazing. So, yeah, I did it again, but I did it in COVID. So we got married in 2019, moved here, and I was still with my old brokerage. I'm super loyal. So that's the thing. And everything takes me a little longer than it should. So I stayed with my brokerage until 2020 in September. And then I changed. But that was like in the throes of the pandemic. So they were colleagues. Either I met them like this, they had their mask on, or they were like this, except when everyone's on a group call, what do most people do? They have just their picture. And with realtors, fun fact if you didn't know, it's usually like an out of date headshot from hopefully within the last 5 years, but it could be the last 20 years. You really don't know. So you just it really has been a, a journey getting to know everyone again. Because I don't recognize them. Someone will be like, "Oh, remember like we talked all the time on Zoom?" I'm like, "Oh, could you just oh, hello." And so it really is, it's an interesting situation. So there's this quote from John Mulaney, and it is in terms of instant relief, canceling plans is like heroin, such instant joy. And it is so true. So we are so overburdened, overworked. So this technology thing is great, but you know what it's done? That work day that people used to really like love, like it starts at 9, ends at 5, no matter what. For those of us realtors listening, we know that we've kind of gave that up a while ago, but it's always possible to be on. I'm just going to digress for 1 second. There are some lead generation companies. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I did try. Someone recommended that I do it. You have to apply, you have to be vetted, blah, blah, blah. I hated it. I hated every second of it. So they call you at all hours of the day and night. And when they call you with a qualified lead, um, if you're not watching the videos, I just air quoted that. The you have to be ready to talk to the person in like 5 minutes. It could be 3 a.m. You could be in the middle of walking into something. I can't work that way. I didn't care for it. And then the same thing happens with sometimes like we'll get leads through the office and the same thing. We can't control when people are sending it in. So you just kind of have to be on it. Or if you miss it, you're like back to the bottom of the line. So I've taken those out of my world, but it is something that like it's a almost a side effect of the technology. So, okay, so John Mulaney. So we all know what that feels like, right? So like the other day, I was supposed to have dinner with friends. We had planned it, like everyone's schedules matching up is so hard, but I had had a day, guys, a day. I had stuff with clients, I had stuff with other agents. I was like traffic and like stuff with the family, and I just was like not feeling it. But I care about my friends. So I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden the message comes in, is there any way we can reschedule? Yes, of course we can reschedule. Woo! Happy dance. Um, and that's the thing, right? It feels so good. But here's the thing. Um, the couch the blanket, the Netflix, whatever it is you get to do instead, that's great. But we don't have the connection, right? So we're loving this alone time, but we're here to connect. So can we get to a point where we don't feel so burned out by all this stuff that the connection doesn't feel like one more thing? Fingers crossed. I hope we can. Okay. So with relationships, so one of the things I talked to the group about last night is that data is very important, right? So I think we can all agree, especially if you are a leader or an HR professional, data is key. So overwhelmingly clear research. Workplace relationships aren't just nice to have, they are strategic necessities that drive bottom line results. Harvard Business Review studies show that strong workplace connections directly influence engagement, innovation, creativity, and loyalty. When people feel connected, they're more likely to share ideas, take calculated risks, and invest in the organization's success. So when I worked at the law firms, that is exactly what happened. So the caliber of work, engagement, all of this after the volleyball games and the FDAW, it was a whole new ball game. Everyone was more creative, more collaborative. And the reason is that when people trust each other, they work differently together. So think about it. Have you ever worked with someone that you didn't trust or feel connected to? Everything takes longer. Communication is strained. Simple tasks become complicated. And then if you multiply that across an entire organization, that is the cost of disconnection. So in leadership roles, it means relationship building isn't a soft skill that would be nice if you had time. It's a fundamental driver of business outcomes that deserves strategic attention and resources. So, who, not how. So, I'm a big book person, as you guys know, and there's two books that I am recommending. So, number one, Who, Not How. So, this one is by Dan Sullivan. And it's a pretty big deal because what he talks about is a very, very simple concept. And the concept is changing. So when you have something to do, a lot of us will be like, how can I get this done? It's an easy, like, it's kind of obvious. How can I do it? He says, instead of how can I do it, who can help me get this done? Whose skills are such that this can get done efficiently, quickly, better, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, we take individual effort out of it, and it's like collaborative achievement is the name of the game. So none of us have all the skills, knowledge, or resources to accomplish everything. So when I decided to go all in on real estate, I spent like all this time agonizing, paralysis analysis, website, cards, how would I do this? How would I do that? But I really needed to focus on the who. Who was going to help me get over that finish line? Who was going to help me really do well in this business? So I ended up signing up for a really cool sales course at the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, 3 parts. It was amazing. And then I also started coaching with Buffini and Company. That was a game changer. So I think when you're looking at like what is an expense versus what is an investment, learning, education, and coaching are both investments in your business. You will get that back like tenfold. You just have to trust the process and don't be taken in by gimmicks, right? Like you want a company that is like tried and true. Ask around. Don't just sign up with someone who gives you like that shiny object. Don't listen to someone that says it's going to be like, oh yeah, 2 sessions and you'll sell 18 houses. If that's true, I mean, I will also sign up, but it's not true. Like there's a fundamental process. You just need someone to guide you and to show you what to do, whether it's what you do or whether it's who you find to help you. A lot of us get to the point where we get an assistant. The assistants can help us with things that we are not skilled in. For example, if you are and that you shouldn't be doing. So you shouldn't be doing paperwork if you should be out selling houses, right? But at the same time, when we start out, we do everything and then you kind of optimize. So yeah, Buffini and Company, big plug. So then the other book that I love, and this is a Buffini recommendation, The Power of Who by our friend Bob Bodine. So The Power of Who is pretty cool. So basically, and this is mind blowing, most of us already know all of the people that we need to know to make all of our dreams come true. We just haven't leveraged the relationships. And you're probably in someone's group where you could help them get closer to their dream. You just haven't made it happen yet. So, what does that mean? So, I was like, I'll give you an example from me. I was really trying to connect with people in my neighborhood. It can be tough because like you could throw a rock and hit 17 realtors at any time. But in my neighborhood, I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors, and I really, really am working on being kind of like a trusted name in our neighborhood. So I was really trying to like figure out like how can I bridge the gap? How can I bridge the gap? And I mentioned it to a colleague at a company lunch. So Royal LePage Thailand, we have like 5 offices, and they're kind of spread out from St. Thomas to Woodstock. And I was meeting with a woman who kind of was out of town, but she had a relationship. Her friends were the parents of some people that lived in my neighborhood. And wouldn't you know it, they're looking to make a move. So I ended up getting to really like solidify a relationship that I had kind of started, but it wasn't really going anywhere. And that's the power of connection. If I hadn't had that social lunch and I hadn't chatted, then she wouldn't have known to say anything and it may not have happened. So you have to be able to make those connections and figure out how you can help people also. Um, think about like if you're looking for a great employee or a great connection or just having the conversation, seeing if we can help each other because together we can do anything. Okay, so cultivating a culture of belonging is really the goal. And I mean, I think that's the goal everywhere, right? Like where this was a talk that was given to HR professionals, but I think if you are in any sort of a group, even if it's in your house, you want to feel like you belong. Like if we go back to that whole thing, like when the partner said, like, we need you on our team, it's not just inclusivity. It's not like everyone gets a seat at the table. It's like we want everyone at the table. Everyone's valued at the table, and we want to hear what you have to say. Like you matter. And that's a huge difference. So I brought up the Cheers theme song. I don't know if you guys remember Cheers. If you don't, I feel like you should go on YouTube and check it out. Um, the Cheers theme song always makes me so happy because it really just says like sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to feel like they're welcome and everyone's happy to see them when they show up? Like, right? Everyone wants that. So do you think that you could give that to people? Do you think that you could create situations where that happens? Um, I feel like it's so much better than just like trudging in and giving someone like, I don't know, a grunt of acknowledgement because you haven't had coffee yet. Um, yeah, it's just when we acknowledge as an individual contribution, celebrate successes together, and create regular opportunities for people to have meaningful interactions, we build a sense of belonging that makes people want to invest in relationships at work, at play, networking, all of it. Okay, so how can we actually build these relationships? So the biggest thing that we don't even think about is breaking the silence. How do you start? Do you just like you walk in and I mean, I think everyone's overthinking. So while we're overthinking, just remember the other person's overthinking too. Who's going to help? Who's going to break the silence? So basically like, hey, how's it going? Too casual? Hey, how is it? How is your project? Too formal? What do you do? Just say hi. Just say hi. How was your weekend? How's your day? How's the drive in? I mean, the goal is to start and then get deeper, right? So then later, maybe next week, you can be like, hey, how was that project you were working on? How did the drive go? Did everyone like the cupcakes? Whatever it is, because what you're saying is, I heard you, I resonated, and I'm curious because I care. And that's how you build it. So it has to be authentic also. Like I shared last night that when I first got my job, my mom was so excited and she took me out to buy suits, like suits. And so grateful because like she actually like showed me so much that like she cares and I was able to show up and feel good. But like 2 or 3 days in, it was like back to school shopping. For anyone who can relate, you go, especially in like Ontario, but you go school shopping and everyone gets this like really cute clothes and they're fall clothes because school happens in the fall. Everyone forgets the summer actually doesn't even end until the end of September. Day one, everyone wears their school clothes. Isn't that great? By Friday of the first week, we're all wearing shorts and sandals and t-shirts, right? So I didn't wear shorts and sandals and t-shirts to like Michener. I don't think I would have been It wouldn't have been a good talk from my boss. But I did just kind of go into like super cute office wear because super cute office wear is my jam. Suits were not my jam. I just didn't feel like me. They were fun though. I did some mixing and matching with the suit items, which was cool. But you have to be authentic, right? So if you let's say you think football is stupid and you hear people in your office talking about how much they love football. I don't know, I wouldn't recommend saying football is stupid, but you're not going to sound very authentic if you start talking about football too. You could kind of hang out and listen for something that would work, or you could bring up something that might be kind of more neutral ground. They like football. Do they also like nachos? Because you like nachos and you're really good at making them. Like whatever it is. Um, I like football and I'm not good at making nachos. So it really just depends. Okay, so the challenge is, and this is for leaders, but it's for everyone. You can't just say that everyone should get along. You have to walk the talk. Like that partner that like popped his head over, he was walking the talk. He was like, this is what we do here and you're part of us. And it was amazing. Um, but you can't like I know there's so many leaders and business people that are like, oh, I don't want to go because I don't want to like it doesn't feel good if the people that you work for aren't engaged. They're not doing it. They're just off to the side. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, why am I doing it then? Lead by example. Now, I also know a lot of business leaders that will go and then they leave early and they let all the kids play, so to speak. Um, okay, so then I recently heard about a CEO, actually a CEO that I know, who makes time for coffee with employees and with board members. And it's not a lot, it's like an hour a week. But it shows that she cares, right? It shows going that extra mile to say, you matter, and this is an important appointment. I don't know how you're doing. This used to happen actually at my brokerage in Guelph. I remember I'd have a coffee with our broker manager, and he was just checking in. How's it going? Is there anything we can help you with? How are you doing? And that's a big feat. When there's over 200 agents, that's huge. But it made me feel special and probably made me like really take my time before I decided it was time to change brokerages, even though I had moved to another city. Fun fact, when I finally told them I was leaving, I was like so worried and I was so upset. And they were happy for me because they knew I was in another city. Like, I think the answer, like, what the reply came like, oh, Krystal, like, finally, we were waiting for you to make this decision. Like, we get it, but like, it doesn't make sense for you to stay at this brokerage. And it felt good because I still have really great connections and really great friends at that brokerage. Love you, Royal City. Okay. But I also love Royal LePage Thailand. Um, so here's the thing. So we need to also show what there's spaces for these things. So Royal LePage Thailand is a great example. Um, so our broker, Peter, will actually create like a social hour. So he'll have milestones. He has basically come one, come all, everyone can come out, or there will be like potlucks at the office, things like that. And I know Royal LePage and Guelph does kind of the same types of like barbecues, things like that. All it says you guys matter, right? You matter. And it's a big deal to matter, right? Like people will do a lot to feel like they belong and to feel like they're a family. A lot more than just it's not always about money, it's not always about status. It's usually just about how do you feel, right? Just like with anything, just like with buying a house, how do you feel? Um, okay. So something that gets overlooked a lot is fun. So we're almost like programmed to leave fun outside, right? But we can have fun at work and still get work done. In fact, um, there's an article by William Arruda, and he says that introducing elements of enjoyment in the workplace isn't just about making people happy. It actually drives measurable business results. Fun at work has been shown to boost productivity by up to 12%, enhance creativity and problem solving, reduce stress and burnout, and strengthen team bonds. Remember the volleyball games and the Friday drinks after work? They weren't just fun diversions. They were building the relationships and trust that made our work more effective and our workplace more resilient. It was a win. Plus, core memories. So good. And it doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive. It can be as simple as starting meetings with a quick personal check-in, celebrating birthdays, milestones, or creating friendly competitions around work goals. So how can we apply this? What intentional connection points already exist in your workplace or on your team? Are there regular meetings, events, traditions that bring people together? And how effective are these at fostering genuine relationships? And this counts like, so for my realtors listening, or entrepreneurs, this is also networking events. So when you go, be intentional about who you're meeting. So you might not think, let's say you meet someone and they are a financial planner or a lawyer. You might not have a personal referral for them today, but you connect, you get together, you grab a coffee. I think I remind everyone all the time that networking meeting is not a replacement for your coffee meeting. It's where you're meeting. Connect, let them talk to other people because then you can take a whole half hour or a whole hour and get to know each other after. The networking meeting is to get to know everyone. Um, how are you leveraging existing relationships? So your who. Are there untapped connections or collaborations waiting to be activated? And how might you more effectively engage your current network? Simple, low-cost initiatives you could implement next week to strengthen bonds or your team or organization. Sometimes the most effective connection builders are small, consistent actions. On my team, we start our meetings with a personal win and a professional win. It doesn't take long, but it sets the tone for the meeting. So you, instead of just like launching into it, we all get to share something personal. We get to do a little celebration, and it's exciting. It takes like 5 minutes. It's not a big deal. I wasn't going to acknowledge what just happened. So I will tell you, technology sometimes is strange. So I have a Google Assistant and love it. Love the Google. But there's a feature that I can't figure out how to turn off. And 5 times a day, she checks in with me. So this was at 2 something, I get a reminder to go for a walk. Um, At 3:30, I get a reminder to wash my hands. There's a wrap up my workday at 4:45. I have no idea where that one came from. Um, and if I don't forget, which I did forget today, it interrupts Zoom meetings. So another reason to meet in person. Okay. So 24-hour connection challenge. So I'm going to give you all a challenge. In the next 24 hours, can you identify one relationship in your network, at work, in your office, someone that you would like to deepen a connection with? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be best buds and go away for the weekend, but just a little bit deeper. Um, Here's like what will happen is you pick someone, send a little email, hey, how are you? Um, would love to get together for a coffee. It can be anything. You can just stop by and say hello, ask about their weekend, ask about their plans, whatever it is, and then schedule 15 minutes next week to continue the conversation. And sometimes it just makes all the difference. Like I was speaking to someone and they had this difficult kind of interaction with someone that they were working with. They ended up just going for it and having a coffee. Just they're like, something's got to give. Like either this has to get fixed or one of us has to go. So sat down, found out that they both have a shared love for philanthropy. And now there's this connection. So when they do interact, they kind of both know that there's a value they share and it's gotten way better. But she wouldn't have known that if there was no effort, right? You just would have thought, okay, we're just completely opposite in everything. So, in our world of Zoom meetings, smartphones, the 24-hour news cycle, it's almost impossible to not feel overwhelmed. We're constantly bombarded with information, requests, and stimuli competing for our attention. So, in this environment, relationships aren't just nice to have, they're the antidote to disconnection. They ground us, they give meaning to our work, and help us navigate complexity with greater resilience and wisdom. So, if you were to ask a group of professionals what keeps them at their current companies despite receiving other offers, almost universally, the answer isn't money or benefits or even the work itself. As I mentioned before, it's the people. the connections they formed, the sense of belonging they felt, and the relationships they've invested in. And at the deepest level, the connections remind us that behind every email, every meeting, and project are human beings. As I mentioned earlier, people are people. And so we relate to each other as people, and it makes all the difference. So thank you so much, guys. This was the presentation I gave. It was honestly, I was so overwhelmed by the people and the comments and the other speakers, and it was just such an honor to be a part of it. But as a reminder, remember that Bob Bodine says you already know everyone you need to know to make your dreams come true, and your network is truly your net worth. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Next week, we have an interview with Jillian Atkinson of Royal LePage Royal City. Very excited for that one. And we have some cool ones kind of lined up for the next few months. And I'm super pumped. So thanks for listening, guys. Have a great day. This is Krystal Lee Moore Lucier, and this has been Realtor Life. Bye.